Hello, welcome to Lachesis or Atropos, a visual novel developed by Fornoki, available on itch.io. And the story is about a private investigator who visits a small town and gets dragged into a conspiracy. I guess we'll see what that means. And content warning, this is a horror game, so there might be some depictions of graphic violence and some disturbing themes. So be forewarned. Let's start. Shades of thin black lingered between the passengers walking through the low hum of the engine and the whir of the closing doors. I watched. People of various forms whose paths might only intersect once with mine here at this moment, I gazed at them in the secrets of their hearts. Actually, let me change the options. Is text speed maximum? I don't like that. I like it like a little bit less than maximum. I don't know, it's just a personal preference for some reason. Anyway, good UI, by the way. It's very professional UI. But yeah, the only gaze at the secrets of their hearts. He hated her, she hated him. They were hated by someone beyond this enclosure, lightly with apathy, darkly with fervor. The former gray most called dislike. I had an advantage over the typical people watching enthusiasts. Professional career choices aside, I was born with eyes that saw strings. Okay. Visible lines ran between their bodies as they began to bicker softly, hurrying away. These were strings of black, strings of hate, a convenient tool that only I seemed to see. Not red nor blue, not red like some other visual novel that will not be named. But not red nor blue, not fate nor death. I saw a color that reflected no light. Was I mad? Perhaps innocently insane. Reality had many times corroborated my eyes' expectations, empirical evidence toward the black strings of hatred. A light sigh escaped my lips. Relief. Everyone was as usual. Those who hated strongly had strings. Those who hated rarely had strings. Humans were creatures of emotions. If I had a string, it would be connected directly to my neighbor, who plays loud music almost every day. Is all I'm saying. But I guess that's her power, I guess we're setting up for supernatural power. That she can see strings that are connected to other people, but instead of strings of I mean, it's kind of like an anime cliche, but the red string of fate, but instead of love, it's hate. Well, as the train started to move, my luggage shook lightly in the overhead and the scenery through the windows blurred. A stranger sat in the seat across from me. You there with the mismatched eyes. I don't recognize your face. Travelers are rare this time of year. Like a stranger talking to me on public transportation. That's that's crazy. Why would they do that? Who does that? Anyway, Mana, is she saying that? The one with the no eyes? Are you a loco? Or are we saying that? No, we're Mana. I mean, it makes sense. Why we would know the stranger's name. We're saying that. I don't know why I got mixed up. Are you a loco? Are you a loco? Most folks on the train are from around these parts, but you seem new. Well, this was the countryside. Not so rural that the trains were devoid of people, but close enough that I spotted a number of rice paddies in the blur of scenery. Rice paddies. I mean, that sounds very, Japanese, or maybe China. I don't know, anyway. I was going to a town, small and a little remote, but of great importance, yet another transfer away. I'd never visited this place before. Maybe the stranger would have recognized my mentor, Shoko, the reason I was on this train. Okay, Shoko sounds very Japanese, so I'm assuming this takes place in Japan. Reason on this train. I'm visiting from the city, Teto specifically. What leads you here? What do you do? Well, I'm a private investigator. A freelance job, although I often work on cases with law enforcement. Just the usual matters. Not much to talk about. The usual matters, murders, kidnappings, grudges, and bloody outcomes. They were difficult to talk about in public, okay? I know most private investigators in real life don't get involved in murders, unlike in the stories that you always, read about, like Sherlock Holmes or whatever. Most private investigators don't do that, as far as I know. But I specialized. Is there a case you're investigating all the way out here? I shook my head. No, there's no such case, at least not officially. Just vacation. You have to take them when you get them. It's a bit harder to choose the right time when self-employed as a detective, but personal matters came up, so I had to take time off work. Yes, things happen. You chose a good place to visit. There are lots of tourist spots in the area, even if it's off-season, and the hot springs are quite nice. Right? I wish I could stay longer. My schedule is up to me, but the wallet is not so much. The stranger gave me a commiserating look. Incidentally, you're from the area, right? I have a friend who asked me to send her regards to a Mikami family. Do you happen to know anything about them? Friendly conversation loosened lips. Mikami? Ah, the wealthy family from the next town over. They used to be very involved with local affairs, but I'm not too familiar with them. Eccentric but well-liked seems to be the general consensus. Eccentric but well-liked? How eccentric and why well-liked? I transitioned the topic away from the Mikami family while thinking about my hidden intents for this trip. Mikami Itaha. I wanted to find a missing person for my mentor Shoko. Shoko was dead, so only I was left to fulfill her last wishes. I thought I should do it before I find myself dismembered in a ditch. What do you mean? You gonna get dismembered? That and I really did need a vacation. The stranger and I made a little more small talk before the rumbling of the train slowed and I came to a stop. An announcement played over the intercom. Passengers stirred, moving to wait before the still-closed door and get their items. I checked the station signs and my notes on where to transfer. Oh, this is my stop. Slipping a business card out of my pocket, I passed it to the stranger, who received it with both hands. I mostly do business in the city, but if you have anything you prefer a private investigator for, please do send my office a call. Have a good vacation. Thank you. Even the stranger had strings. Without speaking a word, I wondered who she hated and who hated her. I doubted we would meet again, because she's a generic background character with no eyes. You know, her missing eyes indicate that she's not important to the plot, and she was simply there to provide some exposition as she asked questions to the main character. Anyway, I rose to my feet, ignoring my sore knees, and dragged my luggage out from the overhead bin. I still couldn't get used to being so tired. My heart raced and I marched chest for a little box with some clothes and a laptop inside. I checked my breathing, keeping it as steady as I could. Seeing the door is still open, I lighted the train with no one behind me. I hurried through the station to catch another train. Barely passing through the doors on time, I quietly thanked the inventor of luggage with wheels. After a peaceful but rather empty ride, I waited at the station until a local taxi arrived. Very professional, by the way. Very much like, I mean, this is definitely like a very much how do I describe this? It's very much like a good vision novel, right? It just looks like a good vision novel. The UI is like, perfect, basically, you know. With another uneventful ride spent looking at the scenery and sky, I reached my inn. Paying the taxi driver, I stepped out of the car and took a deep breath of fresh air. I was winded. Due to an unfortunate series of events, I spent much too long in the hospital this past year, some of it not even conscious. I like to think that I put on back some muscle with physical therapy, but miracles were called miracles for a reason, and here I was. I booked a pricey room with his own private hot spring at this Japanese-style inn, knowing soaking in the public one would be difficult regardless of other guests. She was in a hospital? Wonder why. Well, I entered the building. Ah yes, another generic character, except this time she doesn't even have color. She's just a shadow. The innkeeper greeted me. With only one thin gray string, she was surely a well-liked person. Wow. You know, the only person that slightly dislikes her has got to be like an incredibly annoying customer. I gotta imagine. Anyway, I have a booking for Shirasagi Mana. Or Shirasagi Mana. I guess that's her full name. You're right on time. Let me help check you in and get you to a room. We filled out a paper at the front desk, making idle talk about my trip here. Then she led me through the hallways of the inn to a spacious tatami-floored room where I would be staying for the duration of my visit. Helping me set my luggage down, the innkeeper showed me around the room and the location of the private hot spring. Shoko recommended this inn to me. She mentioned that she worked here for a few years when she was younger. We were co-workers in Teto. The melancholy look flickered across her face. Of course, the person we were talking about had passed away. Well, I'm happy she remembered this place even after moving to the big city. Did she ever mention our hot springs' therapeutic properties? Oh? Oh, the water comes natural from the mountains, you see. That's why folks say our hot springs can heal aches. I hope you enjoyed, especially as you've booked a private hot spring. There's still ample time before dinner is prepared if you'd like to explore the town or have a soak. That's certainly in the plans. Dinner was at 6. I booked a special meal for my first night. Looking at the analog clock on the wall, I found a bit over 2 hours to kill. Wow, we're having like a great vacation. You know, get to have like a private hot spring, enjoy like special food. It's like so good. It's great so far. Before I forget, Shoko also mentioned, from my jacket's inner pocket, I retrieved an old photo dated to over a decade ago. In it were 2 young women. One familiar, Shoko, another unfamiliar. Can I see that photo? I guess not. Mikami Itoha. I showed the innkeeper the photo. The second person was Mikami Itoha, the missing woman. She had disappeared in this town, much to Shoko's despair. Shoko was more than a co-worker, more than a mentor, but a dear friend. She was the one whose little gray cells I trusted to share in the piecing together of gruesome and sometimes not so gruesome puzzles. On her deathbed, she lamented her inability to find Mikami Itoha, and I consoled her, giving it up as an impossible case to solve, just like many other disappearances. Yet after towing the bank of the Sanzu River, I had a feeling that I should at least try to fulfill the wish of my friend. A visit, a vacation, but in the place where Mikami Itoha had once been, I concluded that I would do an investigation under another guise. At the very least, I found a few hints, puzzle pieces to lay on her grave so she could put it together if I couldn't. So regarding this Mikami Itoha, is she still in town? I'm afraid she passed away a while back. Mikami Itoha was dead. I inadvertently tilted my head. I thought she was a missing person. Her family keepers held the funeral privately, but the rain was so heavy that day I still remember it vividly. She's buried in the town cemetery if you'd like to pay respects. Thank you for letting me know. You're welcome. Please call the front desk if you need anything. With a bow, she returned to her other work. I unpacked my essentials. Surveying the room, I decided to go explore the town and enjoy the hot springs in the evening. Was Mikami Itoha dead? Well, case solved, you know. That's it, the end. Let's go home. I pulled up a map on my phone to check the locations in town, waiting for the bars of cellular data to show connection. As soon as I loaded, I began to walk in the direction of the cemetery. The air was cool, but not too cold yet, not too hot. Deep in empty thoughts, I tripped to a human figure and nearly stumbled into her arms as I ran myself clumsily. Ah yes. It is the blind swordsman. Sorry. It's okay. Mikami Itoha, a girl who looked the same as Mikami Itoha, with different clothes and longer hair and a blindfold over her eyes. Before me was a girl who looked otherwise identical to the photo of Mikami Itoha, not one day older. I don't know, whenever I see a character just have like a blindfold and like any kind of story, like it always indicates that like they're a master swordsman or something, or like they're like a warrior, or I don't know. It's like there's just so many like fictional characters that are just intentionally blind, but they have like, you know, incredible fighting abilities. Anyway, nice to meet you, detective. You know me? A sickly detective coming to enjoy the hot springs, a tourist in the off-season. You're not that hard to recognize as a visitor, I don't think. News spreads fast in small towns. Perhaps that was true, but I couldn't see her eyes behind the cloth. You might call them rumors. Not completely untrue rumors. I am a private investigator staying at the Inn of Hot Springs. As for the sickly descriptor, I'm not sure about that one. Then that's all the better, isn't it, Miss Healthy Detective? Speaking of a bright lilt in her voice, the girl before me made expressions quite unlike the still face in Shoko's photograph. How surreal. The same face could convey such different emotions. As I observed her, she made a motion to leave. Can I ask you one question? Okay, well let me just save the game. I'm going to save the game. Hmm. Wong. It's like a weird. It's like a. I don't know. It's a weird, like a sci-fi sound effect. So we can either say like, are you? Well, I guess we're saying like, are you Mikami Itoha? You know, we're just gonna say the name, or are we just gonna be vague about it? Just say maybe, you know, is there a person who looks similar to you, or like maybe we're gonna. I don't know. I was gonna say we're gonna show the photograph, but like, you might not be able to see for some reason. I don't know. Well, I mean, usually a visually impaired person, I don't imagine wears a blindfold though. Usually, right? They usually wear like glasses, you know, if they want to hide their eyes. Because, you know, obviously if they can't really use their eyes, like, it might be disturbing to other people because, you know, the eyes are just looking at like a particular direction that other people can't really like look at, if that makes sense. Like they're not really making eye contact because they can't, right? So anyway. Yeah, I'm gonna be. I don't know. If I was a detective, I would just be straightforward with it. Are you Mikami Itoha? Like, is there any reason to like hide the fact that we're looking for this person, right? So, I don't think there's a reason to really be keeping secrets, right? Right? Question mark. Mikami Itoha. Let me just say that. I'm just gonna say, do you know Mikami Itoha? Mikami Itoha is dead. She told me the same thing as the innkeeper. Taking a thinking pose, she nimbly trotted around on the even ground and faced me with a shake of her head as if coming to a conclusion. You're very pretty, detective. Don't get caught up in trouble, okay? Thank you. Wait, how does she see us? Is it like... I mean, I don't know. I mean, either... Okay, it actually reminds me of... The blindfold reminds me of a character. Was it like... Kreia, I think is her name, from Star Wars, The Knights of the Old Republic 2, I think is what it was called, right? Like he was like a blindfolded like Jedi type person. Anyway, I'm just wondering, can she just see me through the Force? You know, is she using the Force to call me pretty? Anyway, to call the character pretty anyway. I had to apologize to her as I was sure to get into some trouble. Even I prefer not to, but trouble came naturally when sniffing around. Still, warm pink crawled up my ears at this girl. She was pretty. Before I could continue to converse with her, a voice from a distance called out, "Priestess." I barely made out that word. Someone was calling for her, so once more I made the motion to leave. See you around, detective. See you around. I don't know, she can just see... You know, the blindfold is just an accessory, I guess. You can just see through the blindfold somehow, you know? Like those anime characters that look like their eyes are closed all the time, but they can just see perfectly fine. You know, it's just a stylistic choice. With a delicate wave of her hand, she turned away and left. I returned to my walk with more questions than before. I realized I hadn't asked for her name, nor did she mine. Oh, okay. Next, I walked to a woman of indistinguishable age. Perhaps visitors stood out more than I thought. I apologize for disturbing you on your walk. I want to welcome you to town. Please, call me Keeper. Nice to meet you. I'll be in the care of the townspeople during my trip, so I should apologize for troubling everyone by visiting outside the tourist season instead. No, we merely do as we should. I hope you'll enjoy the visit. We continued bowing back and forth in a polite exchange. Before I knew it, a tension I hadn't yet recognized dissolved in my chest. I'm not aware of the duration of your stay, but our local annual ceremonial dance is occurring in 1 week. I would love it if you get a chance to see the thread-cutting sword dance. An autumn festival dance? The date is divine at the start of the year, so the season varies. We can never know what the gods want to see and when. This year is autumn. Maybe it's fate you came here now. Fate was a strange word. There existed numerous myths and fictions about the red string of fate. What I saw was a black string of hate. Hate, it rhymes. So I always questioned what form fate would take. Was it a string as well? I believed in fate. Double-checking my invoking duration in my head, I found that I would stay long enough to view the dance. Then I noticed Keeper making a slight glance at my eyes. Keeper. I didn't even register that, but like Keeper, that's just like a weird name to introduce yourself as. But anyway, you introduce yourself as the Keeper. I am the Keeper. One was blue and one was gold. Heterochromia in its rarity couldn't help but be eye-catching. In fact, she was polite enough not to comment. However, the moment her gaze slipped across the golden eye, I realized she had no strings. Was she hated by no one? Did she hate no one as well? Hate was a strong word. People didn't have black strings, thin or dark, light or heavy. Or rather, people who didn't have black strings, thin or dark, light or heavy, existed. They were only, in my opinion, rarer than two-colored eyes. Is she hated by no one, or is the people who hate her, not of this world? Anyway, a buzzing noise chirped in my ears. I blinked, and I blinked again. Before me, she was still human. With my mind popping back to reality, I realized that I hadn't heard the last minute's conversation at all, but now she looked at me for a response. Oh no. What's the question again? Yes. You never do that. You should never do that. If you don't know what the question was, don't answer randomly, That's how you get into trouble. I looked toward the keeper, wondering what she would take it as. Well, there's a gathering this evening as well. We must be talking about another sort of event. He took out a note card and pen, jotting down something in immaculate handwriting while holding the stiff paper atop her palm. Here are the address and directions to the shrine. Thank you. I took the paper with both hands, read it over, and tucked it away in my pocket. She had even written down the time information. In this day and age, most seem to visit shrines or temples for holidays or vacations, keeping an altar at home if relevant, but not thinking too much about what? I don't know. I feel like I read that weirdly. In this day and age, most of keeping an altar at home is relevant, but not thinking too much about practice. Okay, it's supposed to be like, yeah, okay. I don't know. In my head, I don't know if it's grammatically correct, but I feel like I would put like a comma here. And this should be a comma too. It's like a period, I think. It's supposed to be a comma. Comma there and comma there. Anyway, but I don't know if you're supposed to do that. It's just that in my head, I feel like there should be an invisible comma there. Keeping the altar at home if relevant, but not thinking too much about practices. Yeah. I also do that. I prefer it that way. Perhaps this was some sort of pre-ceremony gathering, or perhaps the local religion was one with such popularity amongst the townspeople that frequent gatherings could happen. I completely had not been listening. I'll come visit. Places many people were convenient for work. Then we'll see you this evening. Another exchange of slight bows later, we parted ways. Step, step, step. Passing through an inconspicuous pair of gates, I reached the cemetery. Tombstones covered the ground with familiar tall rectangular blocks. Both were family graves, the surnames of lineages etched into the stone. Beneath the ground were the deceased's cremated ashes. For better or for worse, coffin-style burials are rare in this country. Yeah, that's true. In Japan, most people get cremated, I believe, because there's this like cultural, well, not really a fear, but like it's kind of like this culture thing where like it's like cemeteries are more spooky because if you bury people in the ground, they're gonna turn to zombies or something. I don't know. But yeah. Anyway, for better or for worse, coffin-style burials are rare in this country. Of course, I wasn't an autopsy doctor, and my particular form of science needed not a whole body. Thread-like gray strings floated in my vision, indicating to me deaths in a particular family in the last century. Grudges to and from the dead faded over time. Oh, that's interesting. So even if they're dead, the black strings are still connected to their bodies, or to their ashes anyway. How's that work? Because they're ashes, right? What if you spread the ashes? How would where would the strings go? What if the body was chopped into pieces? Does it like, is it connected to the head or? Anyway, they faded slower, much slower than a body rotted. I eyed the names in the stones, searching for Mikami. Her Mikami was spelled out with 3 and God. Not a particularly difficult pair of characters to read. Oh, okay, like 3 as in this, like that. And then the kanji for kami. I don't know, to be honest. But kami can also mean God. Kami can, just in Japanese, they have a lot of homonyms. But kami could mean God. It could also mean hair, I think. Before long, I reached a slightly more extravagant section, if a cemetery could be called extravagant. There, the Mikami family grave stood before me. Around it were an array of individual graves, some with plots large enough to fit a body and coffin under. These too were marked Mikami with the addition of personal names. I didn't quite know. I didn't know quite how expensive this was, but I doubt I would ask my estate for such a thing. Even having my ashes buried could be a cost not worth spending. I quickly found Mikami Itoha's grave. Mikami Itoha. It had a stone with her name, a plot large enough for a body, and no strings, thin or thick, even though she purportedly died within the last decade. Pure-hearted humans are rare. Those people who didn't hate, or those people who didn't hate and weren't hated, they basically didn't exist. Meeting one was more than enough for a day, or meeting one was more than enough for a day. Was Mikami Itoha such a person as well? But then again, the grave could be empty. Are you here right now? The grave did not respond. We never met before, but she remembered Shoko. She remembered you. I was her protege and partner. Shoko cared about you. I'm sure if you're not down there getting reincarnated with her, she's still worrying about you. I placed my hands together, giving a short prayer to pay respects. Shoko could have been wrong. Mikami Itoha could truly be dead. The line between missing and dead were often not a line at all. My mentor was a stubborn woman. That she liked her conspiracy theories didn't give me confidence. Regardless, I'll tell her what I find about you. The grave did not respond. I pulled up my phone to check the time. I could return to the inn or stick around a bit longer. Okay. I wonder if this matters. We could stay here and, just reminisce about our mentor maybe. Or we could just go, let's go back to a room to relax. I don't know. Sometimes visual novels have all these kind of like seemingly arbitrary decisions that may or may not, change the plot entirely. Somehow, or change the outcome of the plot anyway, usually. Yeah, let's just go back to the end, Me personally, I mean, I'm not Mana, I guess, but if I was Mana, personally, I'm not really all that spiritual. So, I mean, I guess, if you would have supernatural powers though, and seeing like black strings, maybe you would be more spiritual because of that, Anyway, let's just go back. We're leaving. Feeling a chill set on my shoulders, I decided to go now. After taking one step, I turned back to our Mikami Itoha's tombstone, and nothing had changed. I departed from the cemetery. We're just leaving. Bye-bye. Returning to the inn, I passed through the front and greeted the innkeeper before going to my room. Dinner was sumptuous. Beef, probably more expensive than my entire meat budget for 2 months, melted on my tongue. Apparently, the cuts came from local cows. I went out for a walk to digest afterward. Checking the car the woman called Keeper gave me, I started toward the gathering. I walked and climbed up a flight of stairs, eventually coming to the stated location. A small crowd was already present. I arrived late. I rubbed my eyes. Was I tired from traveling? Okay, well, there she is. At the front stood a girl whose face looked again like Mikami Itoha's. She did not wear a blindfold. Before her sat a shadow person. Before her sat a townsperson. She moved her hands in a series of motions as if cutting an invisible something. The townsperson made expressions of gratitude. Interesting. She seems to have golden eyes, just like us. We have one golden eye, I guess. The girl... I mean, golden eyes or another of that face. I mean, I would reckon, that's the first thing I thought of, so I'm gonna say this. Golden eyes. She had golden eyes. I couldn't help but notice the shining color that was the same as my left eye. Another term for eyes of this color was fairy eyes. But they weren't just fairy eyes. She had pretty eyes, striking even from a distance. At the front, she cut and finished. The people made a short prayer that I watched silently without participating in. The quiet formal part of the event ended, and the townspeople around me started setting up an after party, bringing out snacks and drinks. Like bees to honey, a whirlwind of people greeted me. Kind faces asked curious questions about the big city and how I had been liking the town so far, recommending their shops and other locations. Stumbling over my responses like a newborn fawn over its legs, I was instantly defeated. Eventually, I got a chance to ask my own question. Who is that girl in the front? She's one of our priestesses. Did Keeper mention the upcoming ceremony? That lass is really good at getting guesses to come. Our priestess will also be performing the thread-cutting sword dance. Last year's was with 2 girls. This year's gonna be only 1. Makes you wonder how they'll change it. 2? Yes. Our other priestess can't perform the ceremony anymore, so this year's only had 1 dancer. They're both good girls. Or rather, the old man said that. They're both good girls. Don't forget, you old codger. To start with, before we had 2 priestesses, the sword dance was always a 1-person ceremony. Chatting with the townspeople felt like chatting with grandparents. I made the analogy, but I never actually knew my grandparents on either side. With the country generally aging and the trend of younger people moving to the city to find employment, I wasn't surprised to see an older population in this small town. That was also why she stood out. I spotted a priestess not too far away. The conversation shifted, and I wheeled through the people around me toward her. However, the priestess was gone by the time I got free. Walking around the perimeter of the people chatting, I looked for her. Then I spotted a door and paused. Before me was an open door leading to a dark flight of stairs, too deep for me to see the end. No one was looking my way, so my heart swelled with audacious curiosity. Okay. Time to save again. I love saving. Good thing there's 9 pages of save slots because I'm gonna need it. Do we get curious or do we leave it be? Sure. There's gotta be some mysterious dark secret this small rural town in Japan is hiding. It's always the case in every anime ever, in every mystery anime ever, whatever the protagonist goes to like a rural town, the villagers are like eating people or something. I don't know. Let's sneak in. The door was open and no one was watching. I could just go in, and through the door I went, hurrying down the first steps so as not to be noticed. I squinted in dim lighting and placed my hands against the cold walls. I walked down the stairs 1 step at a time, surveying my narrow surroundings. Down, down, down. No matter how many steps I walked, no end seemed to be in sight. I wondered how many stories deep these stairs sank. My knees began to ache. After the first steps, I slowed to a normally pleasant pace, but my lungs still burned for rest, chest throbbing with scar tissue. It's a lot of stairs, I guess, Should have done more exercise, But she did mention that she was in the hospital or something. And she mentioned how, she had to, get her muscles back or something. So, was it, an extended visit? Well, let's continue. I continued walking. Down, down, down. After endless steps, I reached flat ground, nearly tripping as I tried to go down once more. I passed through a section of darkness, I adjusting as I walked, before reaching a cramped room with a difficult-to-make-out door at the other end. In the room sat a glass coffin. This was the 3rd time I saw this face today. Within the coffin was a woman, sleeping or perhaps already dead, intact without a single sign of rot. Mikami Itoha. I approached for a closer look and, suddenly, my field of view toppled over, legs giving out. I tried to wrap myself up again with trembling arms against the freezing glass. Drip, drip. Gasping through increasing pain, I saw a sword pierce through my chest. Nani? I tried to turn around only for my assailant to kick harshly against my back, forcing me against the coffin to wrench the blade out. Damn it, we got backstabbed, Dark Souls style. My vision flickered, spotting of darkness. I couldn't make out the reflection of whoever was behind me in the glass of Mikami Itoha's coffin. Instead, dark red from my body marred through the barrier, protecting her. Twice in less than 2 years. I couldn't handle it. Being stabbed like this again. All turned black. Oh, that's it. I guess that's a bad ending. But we also met another Mikami Itoha. There's so many Mikami Itohas. Did she have like 3 twins? I don't know. Guess we'll see. Alright, so going back here. So, going maybe all the way down the stairs might be a bad idea because someone just literally kills us. So, maybe we turn around. Maybe we catch someone following us, maybe. Or maybe they're I don't know. Maybe the underground here could be connected to a whole network of tunnels, maybe. I mean, not tunnels, but other rooms. Maybe they came from another way. But anyway, well, let's turn back. Well, I look back to where I descended from. With no backup on call, if I were to exhaust myself in an unknown location on an already tiring day, I couldn't know what would happen. I could be stabbed in the back or something like that. Well, I trekked back up the stairs with leaden legs. Alright, well, we give up on that. Never mind that. Stepping out the still open door in a hurry, I looked around to find no one seemed to have noticed my disappearance. With a few deep breaths and a check on my appearance with my phone camera as a mirror, I pretended that nothing had happened. Stairs. What stairs? Clearly, I've been here the entire time. That's my alibi. Before long, I found the priestess and approached quickly. Good evening. She stopped mid-step as if she intended to walk elsewhere. The entire evening, the priestess had been moving around, so much so that I barely caught her for a moment to talk. Hello. You're the visitor. To her, I was but a guest in the town. To me, she could be an important source of my investigations. Observing her features, I found again her similarity to Mikami Itoha, yet she also held herself in a different way than the languidness of Shoko's target. Her eyes really were gold, not a trick of the light from a distance. My tongue loosened unintentionally. You have golden eyes. Fairy eyes. It's a term from another country that refers to golden eyes, eyes that can see the unseen. I wonder what she saw, if she saw anything different from what I saw, from what normal people saw. I once been told about fairy eyes that my left eye gave me that ability. In that case, you also have a fairy eye, one blue and one gold eye. You have pretty eyes. You do. You have pretty eyes. No, you do. No, you. No, you. No. My heart skipped a beat. What does the priestess for this shrine do? She paused for a moment to put together an answer. We preside over ceremonies and maintain the shrine. Keeper also takes a role with those matters, but priestesses are closest to the power of the Stringless God. The Stringless God? That was a name I did not recognize. I tried to imagine the god of a local religion as I jotted down a note on it in my mind. Stringless God? Yes, Stringless God. She made a distracted swish of her head. Swish. I swing my hair back and forth. Now, regarding ceremonies, I will also be performing the thread-cutting sword dance next week. She stopped and looked away. Following her gaze, I saw the blindfold girl from earlier in the day with the keeper. Yeah, okay, so there are 2 of them. I was wondering about that. She seems more serious. At least her facial expressions anyway. I don't know, I feel like the blindfold girl was a bit more peppy. No. The priestess and the blindfold girl were twins. 2 identical people in the same small town could scarcely be unrelated doppelgangers. Was the blindfold girl in some sort of trouble that could warrant the priestess's concern? Through my ears, I cannot hear the conversation over the low noise of the general chatter. If you have the time, I invite you to watch the dance. Then she left. After my chat with the priestess, the gathering came to a close. I returned to the inn, exchanging a few words of small talk with the innkeeper, who also mentioned the ceremonial dance upcoming. Taking a hot shower to clean away the sweat and grime of the day, I prepared to enter the hot spring to wash away my fatigue. The body was stitched together, covered in scars from the incident that left me comatose for weeks this year. Yeah, she mentioned that when she got stabbed by the sword, that apparently she got stabbed in the past already. I had no choice but to book a private one. So bridging myself up to below my shoulders, I felt warmth seep into my bones. I also poured myself a small cup of alcohol, or a different kind of warmth, sipping the cool drink and feeling its burn. Feel the burn. Now then, what did you find today, Mana? I used to talk with Shoko about cases. Right now, I can only talk to myself like someone without even a rubber ducky. Not even a rubber ducky. The local religion worshipped an entity called the Stringless God. The priestess had made motions of cutting and would perform a dance called the thread-culling sword dance. In other words, a major part of the shrine was the severance of strings. What strings? It wasn't black strings today. Shoko had never mentioned the Stringless God. In fact, Shoko rarely spoke of her hometown, aside from snippets of her youth and her yearning, or does she yearn? Or her yearning? I don't know. Her yearning for Mikami Itaha. From the outside, the shrine appeared like any other local religion with its own flavor as Shinto, but it gave me the same gut feeling as a New Age cult. Yes. Why? No particular reason. Could have been as simple as the fervor of the prayer. At worst, I could apologize to them mentally for calling them suspicious. With priestesses who resemble Mikami Itaha, more likely than not Mikami Itaha was also involved in the Stringless God's shrine. That left me with the question of whether or not she was dead or alive. Dead was the official statement. If she was alive, she likely didn't up and abandon her identity like many do when overwhelmed with events in her life. After all, there's another factor, the shrine. I poured myself another cup. In conclusion, it's still complicated. I soaked for a while longer before I started feeling lightheaded, which prompted me to get out and return to my room. After drying off my hair with a hairdryer, I rolled into my futon and closed my eyes. Sleep came quickly. Then I started dreaming. Ah yes, the city. The Japanese city of Teto? I stood at a street in Teto. Located 2 blocks away from my office, it was an ordinary street with no defining features aside from the good food truck that came on Wednesdays. The food truck wasn't parked, nor were any people bustling by. The weather resembled that day. It was like any other day. Unmemorable clouds, unmemorable sky, unmemorable temperature. No one was here. Bam! A sudden impact sent me stumbling to the ground. A figure appeared before me, but he had no strings. A faceless man. No, I just didn't remember what he looked like at the time of this event. I knew his face from the police reports. Was he clean-shaven or disheveled? What sort of expression was he making? I didn't know. He didn't seem human. My memory of that time was covered with a dark veil. It was the expected result from being assaulted, better yet brutalized on the hard asphalt streets that a coma was the only solution. You got freaking beat up into a coma? He had a knife. Who did that, you know? Just randomly just beat us up in public. This country had knife laws, but laws clearly didn't matter to the madman. He used a knife to stab me. Although we had no relation, not even tenuously through cases I worked on, he lost one day and decided to play kill the detective. He didn't hate me, he just wanted to kill me. I heard screams but no one was here. Whose screams? My scream? My dream throat was too busy bubbling up with red to make such coherent sounds. My head slammed against the ground, which jiggled, kindly reminding me that this was a dream. No one that didn't hurt, not really. A real event hurt. He kept slashing, stabbing, I couldn't really tell, carving out mostly my torso. 27 stab wounds. No. Or is it 20? I always forget the number. But anyway, I'm trying to make a reference to Detroit Become Human. There's like a meme about like many stab wounds. Anyway, for all the damage I received, I came out mostly intact thanks to the doctor's hard work. I like to think I at least look better than Frankenstein's monster. I had this nightmare before, so I started counting his movements as if counting sheep. 1, 2, 3, 4. I hoped that food truck would have stopped coming to this street. I really liked their shrimp pad thigh. Or thigh? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I felt like Julius Caesar in the Senate. I had counted to over 23 a time or two on other nights. The doctors had told me they couldn't identify the number of wounds. 10. I woke up. Sitting up, I touched my slightly damp pillow that had been stained by cold sweat. I checked my phone. As the sky conveyed in broad strokes, it was still nighttime. But if one wanted to be pedantic, it was early morning. I had only slept a few hours. I could never fall back asleep immediately, so I decided to take a quick walk to reset my mood. Okay, save the game. Well, we can go to a spooky cemetery, or go back to the shrine, which is also a little spooky, maybe, because it's religious. Wow, wow, wow. Why would you go to a cemetery in the middle of the night? I don't know, that just seems scary. Let's go to the shrine. I went to the shrine, regretting my choice as I climbed up the stairs. Immediately regret my choice. If no townspeople gathered here at the time when all should be asleep, the shrine was quiet. I strolled around looking for the door I spotted earlier. I found it, but the door was closed. I could try opening it regardless. My hand halfway reached out. I froze, noticing a presence nearby with thin strings. Who's there? The voice was not yet in sight. I shifted, moving away from the door to appear as if I hadn't thought about it at all. In fact, I hadn't even noticed there was a door there. Taking initiative to remove suspicion from myself, I walked toward the voice. It's me. Here at this time of night. Did you lose something? No, I just came for a change of pace because I couldn't sleep. You're also out right now. Do your priestess activities also take place so late? No, I also couldn't sleep. Peeking at her pretty golden eyes, I saw that she didn't display the slightest hint of dark bags. Does the bedding at the inn not suit your taste? I shook my head. The futon was comfortable. I see. Both mattress beds and futons made little difference. Between unpredictable aching and strange nightmares interspersed between nights, I often awoke much before my intended waking times. Falling asleep wasn't the problem. Quietly, we listened to the rustling of the wind. Conversation halted just like the rest of the world seemed to be at our... Conversation halted just like the rest of the world, or... I don't know why I can't read this. Conversation halted just like the rest of the world seemed to be at... Conversation halted just like the rest of the world seemed to be at night when all in town were sleeping. I don't know why that's a weird sentence to me. Unlike the city, the town at night was blanketed in tranquil darkness. You're investigating someone, aren't you? She broke the quiet. Mikami Itaha. News spread too quickly in small towns. It's not worth searching for her because the woman is long dead. That woman, Mikami Itaha, was it alright for the priestess, a member of the same family, to speak of a relative with such detachment? She started walking, gesturing me away from this area close to the door. We held a very private funeral for her. Maybe that makes people doubt her death. Why so private? Tradition and religion. She's buried in a cemetery, so you should go pay respects to her grave if you want to talk to her. Otherwise, there's nothing you do about the dead. I disagreed, but I didn't want to pick a fight with her as she appeared to be done with the matter of Mikami Itaha. Walking along, I pointed to a random tree that caught my eye as to change the topic. That tree looks young compared to the rest here. Was it planted recently? Yes. My sister and I planted it together when we were younger. Her tone softened at the mention of her sister. She looked at the young tree almost wistfully, shaking her head as she turned her gaze away. Well, sounds like you get along well. Siblings are nice. Yes. Twins, although the girls shared the same appearance, curiously, they left such different first impressions. I had met siblings of all sorts, those similar and those vastly different. Those who mourned for each other and those who murdered the others. What? The murdered? Still, identical twins were rare. That they chose to wear the same hairstyle but different fashion was interesting to me. If they were to swap clothes, I wondered if I could tell them apart. Sometimes that's kind of like the, plot device. Anyway. How old are you? 22. Okay. You're still young. Is that so? Of course. She'd only been old enough to drink for 2 years. A legal adult for 2 years. He was 2 years younger than me. Okay, so the protagonist is 24? The difference felt strange to calculate as my previous birthday passed without me even knowing it. I suppose I wasn't old either. I guess it's all relative, I guess. We walked around the shrine some more, the priestess answering my questions about the various plants and outside structures. I eventually grew sleepy, and even she let out a yawn. But the priestess waited until I left the shrine first. See ya. After returning from my late night walk, I changed my clothes and slipped into my futon. Sleep came instantly. I did not dream. Morning came with warm sunlight and the chirps of birds. I woke up with a standard routine not worth mentioning and ate breakfast. Popping my laptop out of my bag, I set it on a table connected to the in-Wi-Fi. Stringless God, I typed out the phrase, tacking on the region of my trip, Stringless God, Stringless God, I typed out the phrase, tacking on the region of my trip into the search query before pressing enter. I'm just literally Googling it, you know, that's how I investigate. I simply search for things online, you see. Easy. First was a 2-sentence long Wikipedia entry followed by a number of unrelated hits. Scrolling down the search engine results page, I found a strange website. It was a site with bare styling, one that didn't seem to use any popular website templates, promoting the worship of the stringless god here in this town. You know, they got one website designer, you know, working on the website for this religion, I guess, and it's just probably a random intern, I don't know. A small font in the footer noted funding by the Mikami family. The dated looking parts of the website and the more modern components on other pages made the website appear halfway completed and abandoned. Large in the center of the information page sat a countdown timer boldly labeled as a time to salvation. Okay, that just sounds ominous. Never put a timer for, never put a countdown timer to salvation on your cult website. That just makes it sound like, a murder suicide cult. I don't know. The timer did not tick. The numbers did not change. Naturally, whatever salvation would never come. Oh, okay, it just doesn't work. A familiar term, an unpleasant term, salvation was an easy thing to advertise. I right-clicked to inspect elements. Wow. Such a hacker. Finding nothing particularly interesting in the HTML, the countdown was just a placeholder, hard-coded in with numbers. I navigated to the people page. The people were displayed in a 2-column layout, no familiar faces in sight. Scanning through the list, the topmost name caught my eye. Mikami Yasunobu. According to his profile, he was the head of the shrine and Mikami family. Born in this town, he married a woman whose name was not listed and had 3 daughters. The wife died 25 years ago, and he was supposedly single. I opened a new tab and searched for this man's name. I only found a few business articles mentioning his death 5 years ago. Returning to the incomplete website, I clicked around some more to find that the site hadn't been updated in 5 years. All external links led to the town's tourism promotion page. Despite the apparent desertion of the site, the owners were still paying for hosting in the domain name. What a waste. I jotted down some notes about my findings, scribbling chicken scratch in ink. No one else needed to read my handwriting. Wait. Putting down my pen, I flipped through the notebook's earlier pages and checked the front cover. Vacation planning. I heaved out a groan at the notebook label and plumped my cheek against the cool table. Well, considering that I was paying for a vacation, I could spend more time enjoying myself than thinking about a possibly dead woman for Shoko. I finished clicking around the website before tearing out the offending pages of my notebook, tucking them into the investigation notebook. Lightly smacking my cheeks with both hands, this is a very anime thing to do, I switched gears to think about my trip. I put down on my itinerary that I go to a nearby tourist spot tomorrow. Let's look up info on that instead, let's ignore the main plot of this, mystery visual novel, and instead just have a great time, that's all. Click. The morning passed and I went out for lunch. After enjoying a hot bowl of ramen, I talked to a few townspeople. Likely because they knew I was interested, they ended up bringing Mikami Itaha up themselves. Oh, she passed away of heart disease soon after her father. It runs in the family. Her grandfather also had a few heart problems. We were close friends back in the day. Still, it's a shame she died so young. I'm glad our priestesses are healthy. They seem to have inherited the genes for the heart issues, and they look so similar to Ita. The priestesses were despondent for a while after she passed away. Were they close? Close enough. They're among the only people allowed to go to the private funeral. It's tradition, You couldn't go to their grandfather's funeral either. You know, I'm still upset about that. Oh, don't let this depressing talk drag your mood down. I heard from the innkeeper that you knew Shoko. That girl went to the city, didn't she? The conversation shifted. Itaha was always a bit sickly. Did she ever go missing? Missing? No one in her family ever reported her as missing. City folks sure have interesting imaginations. Not much happens when you're sick around here. People don't get spirited away or anything. She was often bedridden, so we didn't see her much, especially when her condition was bad, but she was around. I heard it was heart disease. Yes, heart disease. No one could have predicted that it would take her so soon, even though she was often ill. Be sure to stay healthy, young miss. Young people these days often sit around all day for their jobs. It's not so good for you. Of course. I ended up getting fussed over. Blindfold girl. Walking off the rest of my lunch, I spotted the blindfold girl in the distance and approached. She wrapped a black string around her index finger, rolling it back and forth till the string fell off her finger like a snake. Wait, is it like the black strings that we normally see, or is it just a physical black string? When she flicked the darkness, it vibrated, making not a single noise. The black string floated in the air between people, marking a relationship of negative emotions. It wasn't like a harp string one could simply pluck. Strings weren't supposed to be physically tangible, so I reached out my hand to touch a black string. My finger passed through without resistance as always. Okay. Oh, she is touching the black strings. She is doing that, but we can't do that. And when we try to do that, it just, can't do anything about it. The string density in this town was low, I abruptly thought. Hello, detective. Hello. I was wondering, do you know my name? She pointed to herself with one finger and cocked her head to the side. If I could see her eyes, she probably would have winked at me. Mikami. Saying her family name, I watched her reaction for confirmation, but I have no clue about her given name. Did Mikami names have a pattern? I'm afraid I have no idea. That's alright. Do your best, detective. She wasn't going to tell me her name. Making a twirl that caused her dress to flare out, she took a few steps around me as if observing from all angles. I'm still confused, actually. Wait a minute. So she was twirling a black string? Twirling it back and forth. She flicked the darkness, vibrated, not making a noise. Yeah, I don't know. We're just going to gloss over that, I guess. That she also has these powers to touch black strings. I mean, it's implied because of their golden eyes. Her twin has golden eyes. We're assuming that she has golden eyes too, maybe, possibly. I don't know. Maybe? I don't know. Anyway, yeah. What did you say? Oh yeah, making a twirl flare out. She takes a few steps around me to observe from all angles. I don't know if you've noticed, but people are interested in you. You're a sleuth, so everyone thinks you got some sort of interesting case and wants in on the gossip. They're happy to answer questions, but the more you dig, the more likely you'll upset people, and you won't be able to stay in this town anymore if that happens. Thank you for the warning. I'm also interested in you see. She returned to my front, tugging at a black string behind her back. Her motion rippled down the darkness. Do you think it'd be better if everyone in this world got along? If everyone in this world got along, there wouldn't be these black strings. I closed my eyes for a second, imagining the world without strings. I didn't hate it, the idea of not seeing them, assuming I wasn't working as a detective anymore. Well, I'd be out of a job in that case. Of course, the question was about strings. Everyone in the world getting along is a criteria for utopia. Some religions promise that when you die and go to heaven, or when the special day comes, everyone in this world will get along. People's hearts just aren't so simple. Oh, hey, crescendo, by the way. I didn't see your comment. Yeah, I'm playing this game. It is Lachesis or Atropos? Atropos? I always forget how to pronounce those names. Which, by the way, I don't know if I mentioned it, but the name of this game is a reference to Greek goddesses. And I think they're also related to like how these goddesses like make strings of destiny, you know? So that's kind of how it ties into this visual novel, I guess, about the black strings. Anyway. What do we say? Yeah. People's hearts are so simple. Why do you say that? I'm not saying that free will and all getting along are incompatible realities, but they'll just be missing something. There's always someone you get along with better than the other, unless it's a boring world where everyone is the same. No one is special, and so no one is unspecial. The good emotions that people have wouldn't matter anymore either. I don't mind our world right now. I saw many times scenes that might make someone wish people get along all the time. People fought, yelled, and resorted to violence. Sometimes they were arrested, sometimes they just died. As someone who followed black lines, I saw these people a lot. However, the incidents that made it to a detective's table were abnormal to start with. Normal people could fight and resolve their issues without resorting to bloodshed. Their relationships might get severed, but they might also grow stronger from the process. A world where no one is special, huh? I agree with you on that. I wonder, a world where everyone gets along, a world where no one feels special things towards other people. Would that be lonely? Are you also a philosopher, detective? Not at all. Is there something troubling you? Nope, just philosophical questions. She tugged harder at the black string in her hand. Abruptly she let go of the string. The resulting undulation running down the string made me wonder what the physics the thin black followed. The movement eventually stopped. I tilted my head in confusion, forgetting that she couldn't see. What time is it? I pulled up my phone to check for her. Well, just past 3 in the afternoon. I guess I'll have to go now to make it to my appointment in the clinic. You know, detective, I do like chatting with you. Are you free for dinner tonight? I'd like to invite you out for a meal. Okay, do we date the blindfold girl? And her mysterious powers to touch the black strings even though she can't see them? Apparently, I don't know. You must choose a route now. Okay, fine. I don't know. I can't really decide. But sure, why not? Sure. You know, maybe we have a date with this blindfold girl. We'll learn more about, you know, Mikami Itoha, right? That's all we're using her for. That's all. Yay. She offered to jot down her address in time for me. Pulling out a notebook and pen for her to write, I felt her soft outstretched fingers brush against my hand. She wrote beautiful characters with their only flaw they had become lopsided on the lined paper. See you later. Okay. So she can write, you know? I don't know. I mean, that's the thing, right? So, like, if you were born without being able to see, you might not be able to, like, write. Because, you know, you couldn't be able to see what exactly you're writing, right? But she was able to write. And she was able to write perfectly, actually. So that means the blindfold is temporary. Or, well, maybe not temporary. Rather, you know, she seems to have lost her sight after she was born at some point, maybe. I don't know. Anyway. Well, see you later. Then she gave me a delicate wave and left.